Yo, what's going on, Facebook? It's Genesis. Driving home. Got the phone holder, so don't worry. Yeah, I just want to talk to you guys. See what's going on in your lives, and maybe just, I don't know, vent a little bit. Talk about what's going on in the world a little bit, some perspective things and stuff like that. So if you're there, holla at me. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about what's going on in the world right now, how you're living. I miss a lot of you guys, man. Not everybody's in the Springs or in Pueblo. So yeah. I guess like where I want to start is I've been wanting to say a few things for a while, and I feel like God has really told me to keep quiet for a minute. And not in the sense of like holding anything back, but more so like wait for the right time kind of thing. Me and Outre were talking Wednesday, and it was like, isn't it funny how like we feel like our views are so much different than what the world has? Like, for instance, like I don't know, the UFC. Let's talk about the UFC real quick. Like, my favorite fighters in the UFC are not everyone else's favorite fighters. I know what everybody's going to hit me with. Oh, well, you know, we're called to be different. I'm like, but my brain doesn't think the same way as others do. Like, I don't even know how to really explain this. Like, for instance, my boy Trey. Like, he loves basketball. He loves basketball. But when we talk basketball, they're often, I gotta say more than often, every time we talk basketball, he's like, how could you say something like that? To me, in my mind, it makes perfect sense. And so, the perspective of things, like, I feel like my perspective is just way different than everyone else's. So I want to say that first and foremost. I want to follow that up with, this is by no means like a shot at anyone. Like, as far as I'm concerned right now, I got a lot of love for a lot of people. Some things in life have been really, really good lately. God is doing some amazing things. So please do not think that this is a shot at you as I keep going in my little rant or my little spiel today, because it's not directed at anyone specifically. But, you know, if God touches your heart with it, then I think we should be able to talk about it. This is America. So yeah, so I want to start with that. Like, being American right now, I'm not talking about black, I'm not talking about white, I'm talking about being American. It's crazy to me to see how different our perspectives are, right? So in my mind, like, I grew up as a kid who, I guess I should say, growing up as a black kid in America, I thought like America was the greatest nation ever. And to some degree, I still feel that way. But I was like, man, we're number one. We'll always be number one. That's just always been my outlook on life. So I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, well, you know, everything sucks. That's never been me. But what's so weird to me is how people see America, or Americans see America so differently. Like, I feel like at the very core of things, we should see eye to eye. on certain things. So, maybe we don't see eye to eye on gun control, or we don't see eye to eye on, the gay rights issue, whatever that is. Okay, so maybe we don't see eye to eye on that. But at the end of the day, I was telling somebody at work, my man Aaron, like, as Americans, I always thought that we at least cared about each other. Like, life to me is about loving one another. Like, people talk all the time, like, what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life? I think the meaning of life, for me, is to do what God's called me to do, right? And so part of that is loving people and caring for them. And I guess showing compassion. That's the word that I've been using. It's like, I thought, like, as Americans, we showed compassion. And I'm not saying to, like, be compassionate to, the enemies of America. I'm talking about, like, I remember one time I was sitting in a car and driving with a close friend of mine. And he or she, I'm not going to say who it is, but he or she saw a homeless person, asking for money. And the response, I said, hey, I've got a couple of dollars or something like that. Let's give them some money. And the response that I got was like, oh, you don't do that, do you? You're just, like, you're helping their habits. And I'm like, helping their habits? Okay, so I tried to step back out of myself and go, all right, if I'm giving money to a homeless person, right, and they're going in their I don't know, they're using it for alcohol or whatever it is, I can see where you're coming from in that idea. But giving to a homeless person, whether it's money or a cheeseburger or whatever it is, I don't think is necessarily something we should look down on. I mean, really, it's the opposite. It's completely the opposite. Like, we should be people who, like, when you see a homeless person, like, that should break your heart and go, like, how do I effectively help that person? You know what I mean? And I get maybe money is not always the answer, but, like, that should break our hearts. It should make us want to just care for people. And so I struggle with that. I struggle with people who don't think like that. More than that, I struggle with people who are like that, who claim to be Christian. And this is not a rant on, all Christians are bad. Personally, I was talking to a guy who is just a real leader in the hip hop community. And he said, he sees a lot of Christians who just sit there and they bash each other. And it's like, well, why do you even like being a Christian? Like, why are you a Christian if it's so bad? So, going back to my example, like, as a Christian person, if you're not showing compassion to people, I don't think you should be able to use that title, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm wrong, but when I look in the Bible and I see what Jesus did, yes, there was time for correction and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about compassion. I'm talking about if we're talking about Republican, Democrat, and this independent war or whatever it is, I'm talking about at the end of the day, are we really caring about people? Are we really caring about what's the best for our children? You know what I mean? That's it's tough. It's tough because I look at like both of our candidates and I go, the one thing that they have in common is they don't have any compassion. And I like to think that, like, if I could vote, well, not that I can't vote, but like, if I could vote for somebody else in a write-in ballot, it would be for Chris Rock. And I know a lot of people are like, what? Chris Rock. Why? Because Chris Rock says something really, really interesting to me. He says, anyone who votes for a person based off of a party is an idiot. And that really made me think. And he goes on to say, he makes jokes in between it and whatever, but he goes on to say, he looks at each issue and then from that he makes a rational decision. And that just made a lot of sense to me. It just made a lot of sense to me because at the end of the day, this is something else that he says, at the end of the day, we all have a gang mentality. And I think it's not so much a black thing or a white thing or a Hispanic thing or an Asian thing or a Native American thing. It's about wanting to be a part of a gang. So if I can say, oh man, I'm Democratic, or I'm a Republican, or even I'm an independent, like, it's really easy to be a part of that gang without really looking into the issues. And so what I'm trying to really say, I guess, is like, I'm not trying to influence votes. I'm not trying to do any of that. What I'm trying to say is, when you go through your daily life and you see an opportunity to show compassion to people, do it. It's simple. It's really, really easy. Because you don't know like what somebody else is going through. Like, your worst enemy, you don't know really what they're going through. And that's easier said than done. But when you're compassionate and you're putting your best foot forward, I think that's how the world changes. Yeah, so that's it. That's part of what I wanted to say to you guys. Another thing I wanted to say is it's really interesting when you apply those same principles that we were just talking about to hip-hop. So I've heard several rumblings and feedback things about my music specifically, right? And how do I even say this? It's like, I've been doing this since 2003, right? It's not something that I just woke up yesterday and started doing. And I believe so passionately that, like, what I'm doing is from God. And because of that, like, no one's going to deter me from that. But at the same time, like, I think it's in our hearts that we want to be successful. And I think most people want to be successful in something. So for me, hip hop is something that I want to be successful in. And I truly believe that I'm good at. But when you hear things back like, oh, well, you're not very lyrical. And I go, I'm not really lyrical. Okay, I'm not going to take that to heart. But at the same time, Designer just made a song about Timmy Turner. So really, if you're comparing apples to apples, like, I'm the most lyrical person in the planet. Yeah, it's really strange to me. I've had people who have like flat out decided, like, I'm just not gonna talk to you in hip hop. I'm talking about like in Colorado, in a small market where we're supposed to be a team. And so while I'm saying all this is, hopefully it'll encourage someone, because whatever you're doing, there's going to be people who do not believe in you, who do not walk the same path as you. But I believe that God gives you people who do believe in you, who you're supposed to walk alongside, right? So what's a better example of that? Like, I don't know, let's take Kendrick Lamar. Okay, if I could do a song with Kendrick Lamar, I would love that, right? But if I'm so focused on trying to work with Kendrick Lamar and do a song with Kendrick Lamar, I may forget, you know, my drummer Joshua Morgan. You know what I mean? So I'm so focused on that, and I gotta do this and do that. Like, the people who are with you, you can't negate them. You can't kind of push them to the side and be like, oh yeah, you guys are there when, whenever I need you, but I'm trying to get to this place. So never let your progress devalue the people who are with you and who stand beside you. There's a guy I work with, James. He's just incredible. He's incredible. He talks to his wife all the time and says, honey, I really want to go to this concert. And, it's one of my concerts or whatever. And he shows up, man. And when James gets to the concert, he's showing out. I mean, James, he's dancing, he's jumping, he's yelling. He's just incredible. But he's not an exec of a record company, And so for me to go, oh, well, that's cool, James. Thanks for coming. Bye. I'm trying to meet with an exec or whatever I'm trying to do. I got to pass a demo to somebody else. Like, I'm not valuing him. And so, yeah, just keep that in mind. God really just put that on my heart. Like, the people who support you and do care about what you do. And I'm not talking just about music. I mean, it may be your wife, who you may be taking for granted, or your husband, or maybe it's your children. Your children are just like your biggest fans in life. Like, they're so excited that you just went to work and came back. Like, just recognize the people who you may not have recognized before. Because they can be gone in an instant. It's that quick. I've lost some band members, but I've also lost some friends in this music thing, and it still weighs on me. If I'm being honest, it still weighs on me because I like to call it a Superman complex. Like, my goal is, like, I wish I could save everybody. Like, if I could tell you about Jesus and you instantly get it and go, cool, I want to be saved, I want to know who he is, and like the whole world got that, like that was my goal. And I'm learning that not everybody you start with you end with, but also, like, you can't save everybody. Like, even from life, like, not even from a Christian thing. Like, another example of that is, like, I have a few good friends who they want to be in relationships, and they're looking for, this godly woman or this godly man. And in my heart of hearts, like, I was telling Lindsay this, like, I just want to help them. I want to help them find the person that God has for them, because they're desiring something that God made, that God desires for them. And so it's hard. It's hard because, you know, I want to go and like grab the next Christian woman I see and like throw her and go, you go over here with him and you guys work and make it work. You know, I found out one of my closest friends in college, like she just got engaged, and I was for sure that she was going to reconnect with her ex, right? Because she's just an awesome person. Like, she's super talented, very gifted, super kind, and he's super kind, super talented, and is amazing, you know. And I'm like, so why can't you guys work it out? Like, make it work. But that's not necessarily what God has for them. And so understanding that and growing in leadership and wanting to help people and have that compassion is another part of it. So anyway, I guess that's all I really had to say tonight is, you know, show compassion to people. I guess the correct way, the right way. Love people, and let's change the world, man. Let's change the world. We can change our nation if we start with ourselves. And hopefully that didn't sound new agey, but it's not. It's a willingness. It's a love thing. And yeah, anyway, hope you guys are blessed. If you're watching this or if you're seeing this a little bit later, yeah, I love you, man. Hit me up if you need prayer for anything, or yeah, you just want to hang out, whatever it is. Hit me up. If you got an iPhone, you know, we can even FaceTime, whatever it is. I haven't Skyped in years. I don't even know if people Skype anymore. Maybe they Snapchat. And help me with that. I don't understand Snapchat. I'm getting old, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, hope you guys are doing well. I'm praying for you, believing for you. Yeah, hashtag that faith music. Hope you guys are doing good. All right, peace.